Okay, so I'm recording. We'll go ahead and go back to Reality Scan, and I'm launching it. Uh, Unreal Engine's a huge program, going to take up a lot of space on your computer. Reality Scan is not. It's pretty small. And so it doesn't take long to install it, and it usually doesn't take that long to launch it either. And what you have to understand, there is something in here when you first open Reality Scan that will, for instance, come up on the home screen that welcomes you and has some getting started links here. And you could go through those. There's like a quick start guide. Um, but I'm going to kind of show you because everything looks pretty much the way it did in reality capture. I think it's going to do the same pretty much process that I used before. So I'm not going to necessarily look at the quick start guide for right now. I usually just go out of this. And so what I would normally do is this brings you into this single window. When you look up in the upper left of the interface, there's a bunch of different types of window setups. And the single window is the default one that opens up at the beginning. And it gives you this as a default to get started. I'm going to go to the three window setup, which is right next to that, which is going to have three windows side by side, and they're going to say on them, they might say 1Ds, 2D, and 2D, or they could say 3D on one of these. So if you click on them, it will give you different options. And like, for instance, I could put this one on 3Ds, and I'm basically in the 3D space of reality capture where my 3D model would come up. 1Ds is basically a list of some kind. So when we bring in the video and it extracts the frames and makes cameras out of them, it'll give me a list of those cameras. Um, and when I click on them, the images will come up on the 2D on the right here. So 2D is for images of the pictures. So with this setup, I'm going to go ahead and import the video that I just showed you that was taken last semester. And the way you do that is under workflow, which is kind of where I'm default starting at. You work left to right with this, and um, you're going to look for video sequence. That's what you want to find. It's for loading the video. And so if you click on video sequence here, it's going to give you a search window for your um, system. And then you're just going to go find your video wherever you saved it. It is going to create a folder for the images that it extracts wherever that video is. So if you want it to be like, if you want to organize it, then move your video to wherever you think it should be. Like I've got mine in my last semester's project folder. So I'm actually going to take this video. Let's just, I'll just copy it. And I'm going to put it in a different folder that is for this year. Okay, and we'll just I'll make a new folder and let's just call it reality scan demo. And we'll paste that scan in there. So my scan, if I open it again, just to take a quick look, I can see that it's 2 minutes and 13 seconds long. Okay, so it's a little over the 2 minutes that I said, but that's okay. And I don't remember if this was shot in 4K or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and close that, and I can see it's about 248 megabytes. It's a fairly large file, so I don't think it's not a gigantic file, so I don't think that was 4K. And then I'm going to go to my video sequence here inside of Reality Scan, and I'll go to that. It's on my desktop. 2025 classes. This class Reality Scan demo, and I'll grab that video file. I'll open it up. And here's the first thing is that you need to figure out how many frames is a good amount of frames to get the detail you're going to need where you have a bunch of photographs that overlap. And if you try something like if you try the default of a jump length of one is like it's going to extract a photo every, I believe it's 1 second. And so 30 frames per second, there's 2 minutes of video. You could multiply that out to figure out how many frames that's going to be. I could just try it. And if it's not enough, I could make that number smaller. Or if I want to be safe, I won't do 1, I'll do a smaller number. So I'm going to do 0.5. That's going to give me twice as many frames as 1. That's going to give me a frame every half a second. And so I think that'll probably be enough. And then it's going to create a folder next to the video file as the location where it's going to put the frames. That's fine. And I'll say okay to that. Now, the bigger, if I did 4K at 60 frames per second, then it would take longer than if I do shot 2K at 30 frames per second, because it'll have more frames to extract. That's another way to get more frames, right? If it's more seconds, more frames per second, then it should get more frames that way too. Or at least it will have probably a good amount of overlap between the frames because they'll have more frames each second. But regardless, I'm going to see immediately whether I get, well, I won't see, I'll have to do another step before I see immediately whether I have enough frames. But I can check and see how many frames I get here after it finishes. This is pretty fast. This is less than a minute. So what you're seeing in my 1Ds is that there are 268 images that got extracted. Okay. So that's pretty good. That might be enough. Might not be enough. I don't know until and I could actually click on different ones here, and you're going to see those images come up in the 2D window. And there's actually another 2D window right here, which I don't really need to see. So those are the different frames. They look pretty clear. That's good. And in order for me to know if this actually is a good amount, oh, I see. It switched me over to a different layout. I'll go back to that one. I'm going to go to alignment next. So again, you work left to right, and I did workflow to load up my video sequence. Now I'm going to go to alignment, and I'm going to align the images by clicking on align images. I don't know if it matters that the first one gets selected. I'm going to just select it anyway and click the align images button. So now what it's going to do is it's going to go through all those images and it's going to see if they overlap enough to put them in a single model. A good result will be if I see that I get a model that has most of my images, like 90% of my images. If I have 268 images and 100 of those are in one model and 168 are in another model, that's bad. I can't use that. I'll have to try to extract more frames. The nice thing about this is the process is, there's some waiting here when you're waiting for it to process, but the actual process of making a head doesn't take that long. You can do it in a single session. And you'll know by the time you get to a certain point whether you need to go back and start over again because you did a bad shoot, because things turn out blurry or something like that. So here, I can see the point cloud from that is indicates that it's a head. It also switched me to this other view here again. I'm going to switch back. Don't like that view. And you'll notice that, and this often happens, that the point cloud is actually kind of on its side in comparison to the grid. I don't really want that. I want to kind of align my head or my model to the grid. And so there's a couple of things you can do here. If you look under the tools menu, so it's a little weird, and I thought they fixed this actually, but they didn't. It's still here. There's two tools menus. It's confusing because one of them has some stuff and the other one has completely different stuff. But you want to find the tools menu, which is on the far right, that has a set reconstruction region and set ground plane. The first thing that you want to do is take this. You can see that there's a head there. And I want to, okay. And I want to get that upright. That's like the first thing I'm going to do, as long as I see a head. But before I do that, which I forgot to look at, I had my inputs open like this, so I couldn't see anything else in my 1Ds window because they're way down here somewhere. You want to collapse that back up because it created some things. It created, the most important thing you're looking for is a component. And the component, here's where the component means the model. It's not a model yet, it's actually just a point cloud, but it will be a model once you process the point cloud. But what the component says is how many of my cameras, which are really positions of the camera when I was recording the video, or when whoever was recording the video. So all these little things that you see over here, These are little cameras. If I zoom in on them, they look like cameras, and they are virtual cameras. And each one of these little cameras, if you click on it, is a view from the video. So it makes a point cloud of cameras around your head. And in order for it to be a good model, a good capture, they all need to be in the same component, because eventually that component is going to be the model. Otherwise, you're going to have separate models for different parts of your head, and they're really difficult to deal with, and you might as well start over again. So I got the best case scenario. All my cameras, 268 cameras of 268 cameras, are in the same component zero, same model. Means there was no big jumps between the camera positions to separate that into different components. And you can kind of see that on the point cloud. They go one right after the other. That means I moved pretty smooth when I was going around, or it wasn't actually me. This was someone else doing me, my TA last semester. So they did a good job. Whether there's any holes or not, we'll wait and see. But it looks like it's at least this way, the component is 1-0 means one component. There's nothing else under there, and that's good. The next thing I want to do is go to that tools menu and go to set ground plane. And when I click on set ground plane, it's going to give me a little manipulator down here. And I want to just rotate this whole thing so it's more upright to the grid. And I can grab the red thing in the middle here to move it up a little bit. I want to use the grid as kind of like, I want my model to be mainly above the grid. And I only care about the face, so I don't want too much of the body. I can cut that off at the bottom of the grid. And I want the nose to I want it to be kind of centered in this world here. So I'm just going to move it a little bit this way. There's actually a center here, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit this way because I would really like it to be, you see how it's not really straight. I'm just going to use the different manipulator here. Try not to click on a camera to just sort of straighten it up so that I'm more upright in the frame here. And same thing here. See how this is, I don't know if it's just bad posture, it could be, or just the capture, but I want it to be more like that, right? So my nose is pointed forward, because that's how it's going to come out of the model when I bring it into Maya, and then eventually when I bring it I could fix all this in Maya, but I think you might as well fix it here, so that you have a pretty decent. See how I'm trying to straighten my nose down that main line there? Like that. It's losing it a little bit there. Just like that. And then I'm just going to move it a little bit to place. So my nose is kind of going straight down that line, right? And I can orbit around and check it from the side and check it from the front. And that's much more upright. But you can see the box is all wacky, right? So that's fine. I've been working on setting the ground plane. I think at this point, let me just hit enter. What happened? Okay, that's fine. Okay, now I'm going to go to the reconstruction region and see how it kind of reset it. And I'm going to just, I do need to get it. This reconstruction region, and I'm going to fix this, but honestly, I don't remember what key to press. I don't do this that often. Um, some of the tools in here are not quite as intuitive. Like one of the nice things about, say, moving from Maya to Unreal Engine is that the keys are all the same, right? If I hold the Alt key down and I use a button to orbit in Maya, it's exactly the same in Unreal. Like they work the same. A reality scan doesn't do that. So I'm holding down the Alt key and trying to rotate it back straight up the way it was before, and it's just not working. And it doesn't matter if I'm using the right mouse button or the Alt key, which is what all the other 3D programs do. But this one has some other key that I need to press in order to get it in the right place. So
Might be hard.
it could be a hard. Um, let's try it. Did you try it?
Yeah, I work for meeting, but
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you. All right. R. See, how would I know that? I'd have to go look that up. Um, unless I just use reality capture all the time. So I've kind of got the reconstruction region around my head. I don't need a lot of extra stuff in here because nothing from my shoulders or shirt or even my hair is going to be used in the MetaHuman Creator. So I can like really kind of just move these to sort of focus on just the head and kind of center the center in the middle of the head. That's kind of what I do to try and just make it so it's going to end up being a decent model to use. So if I look at that from the side, it looks pretty good. Um, and I will chop off some more stuff inside of Maya, but this will give me a decent head. So at that point, it's looking good. I'm just going to go to the next thing, which is mesh model. So again, I'm working left to right, and I'm going to go ahead, and this is the area you have preview detail, normal detail, and high detail. The first thing I would do is a preview. So I just hit the preview button. And it's going to show me a very rough version of the model. And it's not a point cloud anymore, it's a model. And you might be like, "Oh, that's terrible." No, it's not, because the hair doesn't matter. Metahumans, you're not going to have your hair. You're going to have to use one of the metahumans' hairs, or you'll have to learn how to do grooms if you want to really do your own hair. So ideally, you're going to chop all of that stuff off inside of Maya. All that extraneous polygons that are up there are not needed. What I really am looking at is the face. Can I see a nose? Can I see my ears? Can I see where my mouth and chin is? If it looks like a face and not some unintelligible thing that you can't tell what it is, then go ahead and go to the next normal detail stage, and you're going to see it probably will really clean up a lot and be much more recognizable as your face after it gets through the next stage. The high level of detail you may go to, you may not. It may look good enough that you stop at normal detail. Because what it's doing is it's making it, you'll see that when you get to normal detail with some of these, you'll have millions of polygons. And going to high detail may be like a crazy amount of hot polygons, and you may not even want to use it because it does take a while. You can see this is going to take a while to subdivide that into probably 3 or 4 million polygons. And then high detail is probably going to take like a half an hour or 45 minutes to subdivide it to hundreds of millions of polygons. So you may not want to go that last step if you can get a decent one in the second step. And this is where the weighting occurs. Okay, so as I'm going through it here, I'm really seeing that this is exactly the way it was in reality capture. I haven't seen anything different. And I already have a tutorial on this on my YouTube page. So maybe we don't have to go through every stage here live. I mean, I can, but you could also be shooting yourselves on your phones. You don't have to shoot yourself today, but I would like you to try and get through to having something in reality capture by Thursday, so that we can then look at how we take that model into MetaHuman Creator and finish processing it. It's again, the only thing about this process is the waiting for it to do the processing like this. Otherwise, it's really not that hard. It's actually pretty easy. And the nice thing about it is this is the way you do it for any photogrammetry scan, right? You could do this cup in the same way. You might want to put it on some kind of pedestal or something, so that you can scan all around it, including the bottom, but then you have to chop off the pedestal when you get your final model, and maybe close the hole. But anything that you want to scan, you could scan with video like this, as long as you can get it in a way that you can kind of get around it. I've had people scan statues. What's that? This? Yeah. So you're right. That's a good point. Probably this one might be okay because it's not that shiny and it's got kind of like a brushed metal surface. So there's a little texture there. But something that's really shiny, like the chrome on that one there, or glass with a really strong highlight. Actually, this comes up in faces actually too. If you have a lot of shine on your face, like if you've been out in the 80-degree heat and you photogrammetry yourself, you might get dents and stuff on your face because a white highlight, the software doesn't know what to do with it. And it thinks it's a hole. And it'll make a dent in your model wherever you get that. If you do a good scan, it tries to like take all the highlights and the shadows out of the scan. But if you have a really strong highlight, it's good actually to wipe your face off with a cloth or a paper towel before you do a scan. Or if you have makeup, you put a little powder and get the highlights off your face because they will make a hole. Here you can see that it looks pretty good. Lot better. What I'm looking at, it's not that I don't care so much if there's little bumps and stuff in here. That doesn't it doesn't matter to me. What I care about is the shapes. You can see that my ears, one comes out more than the other. That's my ears. I know it is because I've seen this many times and I've drawn it too. You can see my eyes are not straight. One of them goes up more than the other. The chin is crooked. The mouth is crooked. That's my face. And I can see all those parts. Now you might say, well, that looks pretty rough still. It's true. I could take it to the next level. But if we open up component, we'll see we have models there now. The first model was 95,000 triangles. That was the one that looked super rough. This second model is 749.8 thousand triangles. So it's not actually a million yet. If I did the next one, it would probably end up being around 4 million. And that is a pretty big model. It's still okay. You'll be able to move around in here. It'll just take a long time to process. But if you bring that out, like a 4 million triangle model to Maya, it's not going to like it at all. It's going to slow down a lot. So it kind of depends whether I would take it to the next stage or not. If I want to do this stage, I want to first do the texturizing of it. So I haven't texturized this. It's good to do this without texturizing or colorizing because you can see the model, you can see the quality of it. But then at this point, I want to take model 2 forward to be a full color model. And that one, I'm going to first colorize it. So I'll just click on colorize. And what that's going to do is it's going to take every point in that point cloud, it's going to take that color, it's going to copy it to the vertices on the model. That's me from last semester with my Hawaiian shirt on. So again, I don't care about the hair. I'm going to get rid of that anyway. But the rest of it, one thing that is a problem, now I don't really see anybody, well, if you have I don't have one of those big hipster beards. Yours really isn't that either. But some people do have like big beards. That's not going to do well here because that's going to become a big, gigantic jaw in the metahuman. And you'll have to fix that. When I came in this morning, I trimmed my beard down a little bit because I thought maybe I might do a new scan or something like that, just in case. I didn't want, but on this one, I think I did the same thing. I trimmed my beard down a little bit. But you can see how good it looks. It's still, I mean, that model's still bumpy. You can see it on the edge of my nose right there. But it looks really good when you put the texture map on it. Now, it's not a full texture map yet. It's just colorized. If you want a texture map, you have to assign it. You need to unwrap. When you click unwrap, it's not going to automatically do it. The way this software works with some of these tools is when you click on them, it activates them down here in the 1Ds, bottom at the 1Ds panel. And it says unwrap. So the tool is right there, and there's properties here that you can set. So unwrap parameters right here, I can open them up and I can look and see what the texture map is being set to. So it's being set from a minimal texture resolution of 512. Well, that's too low. I don't ever want a 512 one. So I'm just going to say I want this to be between 2048 and 4096. I don't need an 8K texture for this. So maximum 4K texture, and I'm going to unwrap it. What's that creating on a 3D model? Unwrapping. Does anybody know? It is a 2D version, yeah, of the surface. There's a name for that. Do you guys know?
Protection.
No, no. The technical term for that is the UVs. When you unwrap a 3D model or you texture map it and set the unwrap setting, it's basically creating a 2D texture map of that surface that has a U and a V direction on it. And that's the traditional name. I don't even remember what U and V means. I think it's just two letters. It could have been X and Y, but they decided to call it U and V. But that's what it's called. And then after you set the texture resolution here, then you can hit texture.
Did you have to unwrap it first?
I did. Yeah. Unwrapping it, set the resolution.
Bottom left. Sorry.
Yeah, I did it in the lower left because it's hard to read on the monitor here, but it says unwrap down there. And there's parameters that you can set. And I set the minimum and maximum size of the texture map that it's going to extract and create. I did 2048 as my minimal, that's 2K, and a 4096 is my maximum, which is 4K. It totally depends on what you're going to do with this. Like if I'm actually not going to use this texture. The texture map is kind of just, I take that back. You are going to use the texture, but you're not going to use it directly in your MetaHuman. The MetaHuman will not take this texture because this texture is actually a mess. When you look at it, it's like all over the place. It's not even close to what a MetaHuman's texture looks like. But what it's going to do is you need to have a texture map on it when you convert this model to a MetaHuman because it uses the texture to tell where the eyes are and where the mouth is and all of those things. And if you have no texture on it, it's going to have a real hard time finding those. So make sure you texture map it. And then once you have a model with the texture and everything, if you open up this model, you see I've been working on model 2, and now you can see there's a model texture there. And you can open that up and keep opening that up until you find the actual texture map. And if you click on that actual texture map, it'll show you what it looks like, and it's a mess. I would never want to have to deal with that texture map because pieces of the nose are here and there, and it makes no sense. You can't make a regular face out of that, so it's only useful in this program. So once I have that model with the texture and everything there, I'm gonna go ahead and there's other tools in here that you could use to try and smooth it out and stuff. There's actually there's a smoothing tool in here. simplify and smoothing tool that will get rid of some of the bumpiness by hitting that. But I don't know that it's really, again, I think some of that might just not be necessary to do. It can't hurt it. Like you could hit smoothing. Again, this is another one where you click on it, nothing seems to happen because you haven't actually, there's parameters that you have to set before you actually run it. The button to run it is down here, and it just says what it's going to do here. So noise removal, smoothing style, AI, I think it's, or no, all, smoothing weight, 0.5, smoothing iterations. Honestly, I'd have to look that up to see what all these parameters mean. I don't remember. I just usually hit smooth. And it makes it a little smoother. Okay. Yeah, and you might not even tell unless you look at the nose again to see if some of the bumpiness is a little bit gone, and you might want to hit smooth again to see if it smooths it even further. Um, so we could hit it more than once. The other one that is in here that I sometimes use is simplify, reduce the number of triangles of a selected model. Yeah, I don't really think I would use that on this one. There's some other things in here that I haven't really used that much because I haven't really needed to. Texture reprojection. I do think that there is a way to maybe get this texture map to be more like a usable texture, but I haven't really tried to do that yet. It would be really useful. It's one of the things about the metahumans is they look pretty much like you, but they don't have your face's texture. So if I could get my face's texture, this texture on the metahuman, it would look exactly like me, or it would look very, very close to me. Like it would get to the quality of that blue dot animation that you saw. But to get that, there's some tricks that you have to go through, and I haven't tried it in a while. So there might be some new tools that make it actually easier. But we'd have to try to figure that out. So I have this face, it's all ready to go. I think it's decent enough for me to use. So I'm going to go ahead and export it. What I'm looking for here is that the eyes are clear. They're not all blurry. If they're all blurry, you had a bad scan, right? You were moving your eyes around when they were taking pictures of you. So I'll go ahead and export it. The way you're going to export it is what you're going to look for. I believe it's under mesh model. You're going to go and find levels of detail. There's a dense mesh model, which is also an export, but that's like the full resolution model. And I don't usually like to do that, again, because it's got a lot of triangles on it. I don't really think you need more than like a 500,000 triangle model, and you could probably go down to like 100,000 triangles. So right now I've got a 749,000 triangle model. I don't need that to get a good metahuman out of it. So what I'm going to do is use this levels of detail. What it does, LODs, you guys know about that? It's a thing in Unreal Engine. That's what they call them. Levels of detail is different resolutions. So you're going to export it. I would use, instead of OBJ, I would switch to FBX. Because I take mine through Maya. That's Maya's file format, the Autodesk file format. But also, I know that's going to come also well into Unreal Engine. And so I'm just going to call this Topher scan, test, whatever. Save it in the same place that I have my reality scan stuff. And you're going to get a window for, how many levels of detail you want. So I would usually I just kind of default to like 3 normally. I don't use 3. I'm only going to use one of those, but it'll give me some options. So it'll send out 3 levels of detail. One that is like whatever I set this maximal triangles to be. So right now it's at the actual size. Let's say I don't really want to go past 300,000. That's half of the size that it currently is. So I'm going to put 300,000 for the maximum size, and for the minimum size, let's put 50,000. All right, so
That's percent.
oh yeah, percentage. Ooh, yeah, okay. Relative simplification percentage. Ooh. Let's try 50%. Okay, we'll try that. And then most important, make sure you check make the texture options. If they're closed, open them up. They might be closed. And say yes for export textures. It's really, you won't get if you don't have that, you're not gonna be able to make a metahuman out of it. So I think that's good enough. And we'll say, okay. If you want to be able to work on this some more, or maybe your levels of detail weren't set correctly, like that 50% thing, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should have put 25%. Um, I'll look at the models and see how many triangles they end up, what the detail looks like. If they're like too low, I'm going to come back in here and export again with a different percentage, or you want to save it, in other words. So make sure you go up here and do a save as and save your reality scan project. We'll just call this Topher demo. Save. And that way I can come back in and fix a problem if that doesn't work out right. So when I come out here, I'll see the different files, and I see the FBX files, and I can see that the LOD0, which is always the highest level of detail, is only 11 megabytes. And then the one is only like 6 megabytes, and then 3 megabytes for the level detail 2. So that's the smallest one. These are really small files. Maybe I could have reduce less on my export. Use less of a percentage instead of 50%. Maybe I should have done like 10% or 25% or something like that. And actually, I'm not sure if that's more or less. Maybe it should have been 90%.
It's 1%. Basically, like if it's 90%, it'll be 90% of the tries on the previous model.
Okay.
Oh.
So I mean, it could go either way, but if that's what I mean, that's probably what it is. And so I would want to, I think I would probably can afford to have a heavier model for my LOD 0. It might be fine. I can open it up and see. So let's go and we'll launch Maya. And we'll go ahead and so I'm pretty much done. Do you guys want to go ahead and try to shoot yourselves right now? Let's do it. It only takes 2 minutes, right? You wipe your faces off, no shine. If you can get your hair out of your face, great. If you can't, maybe we need to do it at home and have your roommate or friend or somebody or family member shoot you instead. You have to train them in it because they're going to have to get down in their legs, right? They're going to have to get Tai Chi.
And then it took frames from the video.
Yeah. And it's really important. The way reality scan works is you can't put someone like on a turntable and turn them. It actually needs to have the background still while you're moving around the head because it uses the background to sort of figure out where the model is, right? The background sitting still as you're moving around it is really kind of how the vision software is using to extract the detail and stuff for the photogrammetry process. So I've tried using a turntable to do this. It doesn't work. It confuses the software. So if I want to bring in that FBX file in here, I'm going to do a file import. I'm going to make sure that I'm on FBX. I don't want to actually use I don't want Maya to figure it out, which is best guess. And that's kind of the default. I want to find FBX in here and choose it because I know that's the kind of file that I'm opening. And you might want to put it under a group. It doesn't really matter. We don't need it to group the model. There are some import settings that you may want to look at, like the size that it brings it in and stuff. There's an edit preset button down here, which will open up the FBX import settings here for inside of Maya. And you can go in and you can find units and you can turn it off from automatic and set it to something like centimeters or something. And it's gonna make it a smaller model. But for the head, I don't really think it matters much. You could just leave it on automatic and it'll come in really big, probably. And then you just want to make sure that it's going to bring in the texture maps, but I think that's by default. So I would just leave the defaults on here. Import, you'll need to find it. So I'm going to go to my desktop, find my folders. Here's my levels of detail. I'm just going to bring in the LOD 01 and see what it looks like. Okay, I see it's there in my outliner. I don't see it out here. So I'm going to hit F to frame it. And I can see that it is there. Um, and honestly, I don't know whether it's too small or too big. Oh, it's too big, right? Because if I zoom in, I think that's my grid down there. Um, yeah. So if I unselect here, you can kind of see how the model came in. And if I select it and I put this little checkerboard symbol on the window, it will show me the texture map. It's fine that it looks, because of the way it's doing the 3D and the shine and stuff, it looks a little bit like a sculpture, sort of washed out sculpture, but that's fine. It's as long as the texture map is there, that's all that I care about. And I can see that it looks pretty good. I mean, it's got some bumpiness to it, but that's not going to matter. What I really care about is the shapes. And I can go in with the smoothing tool and I can smooth out some of the bumpiness if it's really bad. But I don't see any like big dents in my nose from shine or anything. There's a little bit on the end there. Um, but it's not terrible. I can see where the mouth and eyes and everything are. And I think that would work. I think that's going to work. We could, let's see. Yeah, I don't think, yeah, okay. Just turn off the default lighting. You can see it looks pretty good. There's no big holes. There's a little bit of something that happened right there on behind the ear, but that doesn't matter. It's not going to make any difference. Looks pretty good. Now, in the video that I have of this online, let's see, where is it? In here, I have videos for doing this, like here's reality scan, capture. It's reality capture, but it's the same process. And I do go into one of these videos, actually, I think it's this one, where I chop off the top of my head and stuff like that. Because I don't need the hair. And it will actually make a bump on my head. So it's sometimes better to get rid of the hair, excess hair and stuff, and the geometry that's sticking out up there. I just chop it off. So inside of Maya. So like, for instance, you can right click the model, choose faces, and just, drag a selection box over the entire top of the head there. You don't want to cut into anything in the forehead, but if I hit delete on the keyboard there, it just chops off the top of my head, right? And I don't need any of this back stuff either. So I can just chop that off too. I can come up here, drag around the back here, and just hit delete and get rid of all the smutsy stuff that might cause something weird to happen when it processes the metahuman model. I just want to be careful that I don't like cut into, like I'm still in the hair right there. I cut that little hole there, but I'm not like in the forehead or anything. Even these little bumps here from my hair are going to cause a bump on my head. But I don't know if I would try to cut in that far. it'll just reduce a little bit. I could cut a little bit of the shoulders off here that I don't really need. And just produce a better effect. And then I can go back to object mode. Looks a little funny, and I could keep working on it right here to sort of cut that part off too. But that'll just keep me from having to sort of like fix a bump on the head of the metahuman that's going to come up there. So anyway, this is, I'd want to do a file save scene as here, probably to save this version if I wanted to work on it anymore. And here I would do a file export. And I would say you do have this export to Unreal, but it doesn't really do anything except export an FBX anyway. So you could just do an export selection like I would normally select it because I don't want to export anything else but this model. I would get rid of that and just export selection and choose FBX again. The only thing about that is in the presets, make sure that you embed the media, because if you don't, it's not going to export out the texture map. Embed media is the texture map. That way, when you import it into Unreal, everything will be there. We'll be able to process it to a MetaHuman. I think if you guys want to go ahead and we have 15 minutes. You want to go ahead and try and shoot something now so you have something to work with? It'll be on your phone. You get a partner where we have an even number of people, hand them your phone, have them shoot you, and then switch. And that way you have something to at least do a first one, right? And if it doesn't turn out good, then you're going to have to find someone else to shoot you at home and try it again. And we could also shoot again on, I mean, it doesn't take long. Once you get the process, once you try it a couple times, you'll be able to do it again at the beginning of class next time if you want to. But it would be great if you could actually have something, try to process it in Reality Scan before next class, and we'll look at them at the beginning of class.
So it's
This coming Thursday, I would love it if you, there's an assignment for you to upload, actually, it's an assignment for images inside. Yeah, it's an assignment to upload some images, screen captures of your head inside of Reality Capture. So if you can get a video real quick here, try processing it and see if you get ahead inside of Reality Capture. We do have limited space in here. You don't necessarily have to do it in here. You could go to the lab next door. You could go outside as long as you're shooting maybe in the shade so that you don't have any direct sunlight on your face. Actually, outside is pretty good because you get light from all over. And, all that matters is you have kind of even lighting as much as possible.
I feel bad asking, but without like.
Try to keep them down to 2 minutes or less. Work your legs. It's squat exercise.
Oh, yeah.